frames now. So what we're going to do, we're flitting now. So we're going to sand this gessoed frame. So we've started right at the beginning of the process. We're now going to sort of day 3 or something. So so if you clear a little space in your workshop here, and if you want to put the aprons on just to make sure we don't get too grubby.
Is that to create a completely matte surface for when you sand the gessoed frame?
In painting, you talk about 2 types of key.
Yeah.
You talk about a chemical key and a mechanical key. So really, any time you come to something, you want to create some kind of key, and the key is this sort of what maximises the adhesion of one layer of paint to another. So all we're doing here is we're creating a mechanical key. That's one of the things. The other is that, you know, these are gessoed in our workshop where we spray them, which is very unusual, but again, it's a technique we've pioneered, and they're pretty good as you get them. This is a product, if you buy the gessoed product. But you might want to just inspect it and make sure it's good enough. So those are the 2 things we're sort of doing here. Okay, so for this one, you're going to use the 180 grit sandpaper. So this is a recent discovery, is that we now buy our sandpaper on a roll, which we find is much better than buying it by the sheet. Because if you use sheets of sandpaper, and somewhere, well, these are half sheets of wet and dry. So I would, if you get sheets of sandpaper, I'd use 1/8 of a sheet at a time, which means you fold it in half, rip it in half, fold it in half again, rip it in half, and fold it half again. And what you'll end up with, I'm not going to do it with this because you need those as they are. What you'll end up with is a piece about this sort of size. So that would be 1/8 of a normal sheet of sandpaper. But with the roll, you can just rip that much off. Now you should be able to fold that in half, and it'll fit your 4 fingers just perfectly behind it like that. And you can roll it to get a nice curve, you can fold it to get a nice straight bit, and you can really manipulate that to get in everywhere. So if you're working with sheets, 1/8 of a sheet. If you're working with a roll like this, just tear off a piece which is 2 inches or something like that, 2.5 inches. And whatever's comfortable for you. But now we will only be selling the roll stuff. And this is a new idea for the business, which is the artist's filling station. So you'll be able to buy this by the metre from us. So along with all these other consumables, which the whiting, the rabbit skin glue, etc., you can just buy 250 grams of it, bring your own container, and as we shape up the offering, that'll be cheaper than if we supply you 250 grams pre-packed. So so there we go. So get your bit of 180 grit, and we're just going to go round here. So on the back there, for example, there's a little bit sticking out there, which I might not be happy with, and just sort of get that. And just work over the whole thing with the 180, which is the coarsest sandpaper. You're just going over, making sure there are no major bits, and the areas where you're going to build up are on the inside of the rebate here. So get inside there and make sure that's completely flat on the inside of the rebate. On the outside, on the very outside back of the frame, make sure there's nothing hanging off there and so forth.
Was this sprayed on originally, Cope?
This is sprayed, yeah. But the spraying process, and if you go on the free online course, you'll see, because I've gone through on that, it gets 3 coats by hand before we start with the spray gun.
Yes. Do you have to thin it down much more to make the spray work? Is it too blue together?
It probably is less of the whiting, which is the chalk, yeah. Because what we're going to learn here is to mix the whiting sort of mix the whiting by feel more than by actual volume. But obviously that I came up with a formula so we can try and be consistent all the time. Okay, so when you've done that one, when you're done with the 180, you can have a go with your next one, which is 320 on that. And I should only do the 180 on the bits you're sort of unhappy with, any little sort of over spills of gesso or whatever, and just shaping it. You might want to shape the corners a little bit, just round them off a tiny bit so it's definitely a handmade frame. Again,